Hello?
Hello.
Hello. My question has to do with standing on your own feet. Standing on your own feet, how your teacher wanted you to stand on your own feet and how it was important to not become attached and dependent. Did you feel any resistance or fear towards that idea?
I did.
And how did you overcome it?
In the beginning, it was quite a dangerous proposition, I thought I have burned my boats and have come on to the other shore, and there's nobody to support me, and there's one to support me. And then when there's one person who I thought I could completely and say, stand on your own feet, it's a dangerous shock to your whole system. So I resisted it for quite some time. I said, you may say so, but I can't do it. He said, why? I said, I can't do it, I need some support. So after a while, that was when one day he said, now I think you should move out of here and be by yourself for some time. Now I said, but where will I go? He said, go where you want. Stay away from me for a while. So I actually went away. And then he called me back. But that going away period was a good learning experience for me. I suddenly felt, first I was very unhappy, but somewhere along the line, I felt suddenly kind of free like a butterfly. I could do what I want, go where I want. I felt wonderful. And I wouldn't go to the wrong places because I already been trained properly. So from there I began to understand what he actually meant. That it's not disrespect that you're doing it, but out of understanding the teachings. Which is finally freedom is important. And even if it is your teacher, it's still like some way, in a subtle way, bound. Then you realize that the teacher is free and you're free, and then you're not bound, but you're together in freedom. So yes, I did initially resist. I felt terrible actually to be trying to stand on my own feet. I was not sure of myself. I thought maybe I need a prop, some more time. I said, give me a walking stick at least. He said, no, take it off. So it's natural you feel it that way. We are human beings, right?
I'm going to let the folks who are serving in the kitchen take their seats once again, and while that's happening, I have a question while we're waiting for the other questions. Was there ever a time that you really disagreed strongly with your teacher, and if so, how did you broach it and how did you reconcile it?
Well, I disagreed with my teacher many times, in many ways, but disagreed not for the sake of disagreement or to show that I was smarter than him or anything, but I felt something, no, this can't be, it has to be something else. Yeah, I did. But then, after living with him for some time, I began to understand that this disagreement of mine is merely an exercise in a rebellious attitude which I was born with. There is something called your, I don't know what to call it, in fact, Idris Shah wrote a beautiful book on this. Not the over self, something like that. Which means, even though we know that, even though we feel we are in charge of ourselves, there is some other self that is controlling us. Not from outside, from inside. So I discovered that this problem I was having mostly with my master was this feeling of coming from that self, which says it's the best thing to do is to disagree or to rebel. There was not much substance to my disagreement, actually. It took me some time to grasp that.
Other questions?
Namaskaram. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you. My question is, after one comes to the state of self-realization, nirvana, whatever term one would use for it, after that stage, is it still possible for the person to have limitations? And if so, my follow-up question will be, what does self-realization really, really mean in the real world? This is a question I would want to pose to every master who I have the chance to interact with. Yes.
So do you think, I'm going to ask you some question, do you think master should be accessible or not?
I think they should be.
So why are you going to somebody who is not accessible?
I think I was led to a certain space. I mean, I was led, it wasn't like at that point I was actively looking. I was led to a resource which has been helpful for me to a very great extent. And in fact, for the past 6 months or so, I've been watching a lot of your videos in particular, and I think the piece that you always mention, that it's about the teaching and not about the teacher, I think that is something I deeply, deeply resonate with.
So now we will come back to your original question. Having said this, after having stirred the hornet's nest, we'll come to, the thing is that the question you asked, that if one has reached nirvana or perfection, it's still possible to have imperfections. Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Roughly?
Yes, roughly, yes.
It's still possible to have limited. Okay. Let me tell you this. As long as the human body exists, since the human body is limited, even though in a certain stage of meditation, it may be absorbed in the infinite or this nirvana, it does come back to the physical consciousness because it has to function in this world. When it comes back to physical consciousness functioning in this world, there are bound to be, or could be, not bound to be, some imperfections. Except that if it's a genuine teacher or a genuine yogi, he would recognize it as such and not justify it. If I get angry, suppose. Now there are two ways of looking at it. I get angry and say, I'm justified in being angry because I'm entitled to be angry. And there's other teacher, sadhak who says, I'm not entitled to be angry, but I'm angry. That means there are still some imperfections left in me. This is a better approach, I would think. Okay, fine. Maybe I need to get rid of them. But then if I say that, then I would appear to the outer world as if I haven't attained perfection, nirvana. I'm not ready for that. One question, one part of the question. Second part, what do you mean exactly by nirvana and perfection? You see, this is something. Yeah. Unless somebody has attained nirvana, he cannot even define what is nirvana. So, any other definition or attempt to define nirvana is my own projection of the idea of nirvana. And nirvana need not, according to me, a state where you are in a trance all the time. Nirvana is be when you are free, while you're eating, while you're drinking, while you're talking, where you don't have any pretensions, and where you don't have anything to hide, where you're not insecure in any way, you're free. I think that is the beginning of freedom. And according to me, the goal is important, of course, but the way is as important as the goal. You start in freedom and then go towards freedom. Don't start in bondage. To free your mind. So, yes, one can have imperfection. I confess that I have some imperfections. Because I don't mind if somebody thinks I haven't attained Nirvana. Yeah? What's your name?
Madhyama.
So follow the Madhyama path, the middle path. Don't go to the extremes.
Thank you so much for your presence. I was wondering if you could shed some light on the different kinds of trappings in the path of practice and your advice on how to deal with them and how to move through them.
Say that again.
Different kinds of trappings in the path of practice and your advice and guidance on how to move through them, how to deal with them.
When you are on this path, there are certain obvious trappings that you can fall into, which is you can fall into the trap of too much ceremonial involvement, or you can fall into the trap, very important trap, that I have taken Kriya from so and so, for me or somebody else, and therefore I am superior to the others. This is a very big trap. I have taken this practice from so and so, and others haven't taken it from me, therefore they are lower than me. Okay. The other trap is that when I close my eyes and I am in a nice and blissful state, to think that I have attained samadhi. This is another trap. So these are some of the traps that one need to watch out carefully. I'll tell you why. Because if you really have touched samadhi, a completely foolish person who goes into samadhi by some way, I don't know, suppose, when he comes back he cannot be the same person anymore. Till that happens, whatever trance one is still not in samadhi. But for sadhaks, I would say I always tell people who take Kriya from me, now you have taken Kriya from me, don't think that you are superior to all others who have not taken Kriya. My Kriya or somebody else's Kriya, it doesn't matter. Because it is not compulsory that you should take Kriya to attain moksha. Mirabai did not take any Kriya from anybody. Can you say that she didn't find her goal? Ramana Maharshi did not take any Kriya from anybody. Can you say he hadn't touched his goal? He did. Of course, we are all not Ramana Maharshis and Mirabais. I can understand that. But this is not. So, the most important trap is to mistake the practice for the goal. That is.
Namaskaram. I have a technical question. I've been doing Kriya for a while. My problem is every morning I wake up with a blocked nose.
Mm-hmm.
and it clears up during the day. So my evening kriyas are okay, but in the morning I struggle with the pranayama. So is there any way I can?
I think you have a slight deviation of the septum.
Yes.
So which side is more open than the other for you?
It moves.
Moves. Okay, a couple of things. One is, before you do any other kriya, do the anulom vilom, which is alternate breathing. You know what to do with the anulom. You close the right, left, take in slowly. Hold, don't count number of times, it's okay. Hold it, close this. You do it for at least 5 to 6 minutes completely. Then do a little bit of Bhastrika. Little bit of Bhastrika. Then your nostrils would be clear. Also, do you do asanas? Do Sarvangasana more often. Or at least lie on the bed, let your head hang down and just be there for some time and come back. No jerky motions, as slow as possible.
Before the asana?
Before the asana. I think this might help. Yeah, it's important that otherwise there's no balance. Yogini, yes.
Hi. I wanted to, well, first thank you because you initiated both my husband and I together. I think I was initiated a year before, but then I brought him.
I know that.
And he always seems to be so so calm. He doesn't practice yoga. He doesn't like my classes, but he'll go sometimes. He sweats and grunts mostly. But he doesn't meditate, and he did for a while after the Kriya, and then a whole year went by, and I went to visit you, and the next morning he said he wanted to do it, and it was such a beautiful moment, and the next morning after that he tried, and then he stopped. I guess my question is, I hope he's not disrespecting you.
He's passing through a phase. Let him be.
Yeah.
Allow him to be. Let
And
him
sometimes I feel like he's so much more.
I know. So let him
Yeah.
be. And then when he feels he needs to go back, he'll come back. Don't apply any pressure. Leave him. He's a good man.
He's such a good man.
He's a calm man.
Yeah.
And that's more than you can ask. Even if he's doing Kriya and if he's a violent guy, it makes no sense.
Thank you.
Naresh, what time are we supposed to? Huh? But you did this way, 5 minutes.
It's only 12:25, Naresh. Are you trying to keep Shriyam for yourself?
No, we need to go somewhere.
Okay, so maybe that's one more question, and I don't see a hand, so maybe I'll ask. Suddenly everyone jumps out. Okay, here we go.
What's your name? I saw you before.
Jaisil.
Jaisil. What a name, Jaisil. How did you get that name?
I asked my mom and she said she doesn't have any idea.
You're not from Rajasthan by any chance?
No.
No.
I'm from Kerala.
From Kerala and Jaisil?
Yeah. So my mom, I think he took the name Jason and somehow made it Jaisil.
Because Jaisil was the founder, one of the oldest kings of Rajasthan, of the deserts, who built the city of Jaisalmer. It was named after him.
Yeah, I came to know about that only after reading your book.
Okay. So I thought you were my friend. Okay.
So we have different meditation practices, right? So for beginners, the goal is to reach some sort of samadhi.
Absolutely.
Right? So my question is, how would someone kind of identify if a particular state is samadhi, and if one reaches that state, then what's the next thing? Like, my understanding is you should remain in that state for a prolonged period of time, meaning like days or years. So, is that the right thing?
Okay, let me put it this way. Samadhi is easily said, but not easily attained. Samadhi there are two kinds of samadhi. One is what we call savikalpa samadhi. And then there is another one which is called nirvikalpa samadhi. And then after that, there is something called sahaja avastha. In sahaja, you don't meditate or go in or go out. You're all the time the same. But first you start with savikalpa. Savikalpa means when the mind is absolutely clear of all distractions. There are no distractions whatsoever. One even doesn't say, I am meditating, because there is only meditation. And anybody who touches that becomes wiser. He can't remain the same ever. Things change. You begin to see the world as one and not as different little pieces. It becomes one unity. If that experience comes, then you are actually entering samadhi. If you are not, then you certainly are entering into some kind of trance, but you haven't reached that samadhi. Of course, there are different levels to it. When you reach that, then, as I said, but before that, whenever your mind is not distracted, you're calm and quiet and enjoying inside some kind of a blissful feeling, you're still progressing on the spiritual path. Don't worry about that. Now, nirvikalpa is when the savikalpa samadhi, where there is no distraction at all, continues for a length of time, and even the body has no functions for some time. This is called nirvikalpa. After nirvikalpa, people, if they come back again to consciousness, then they are in a stage called sahaja avastha, where while working, while eating, while talking, while doing all the activities, there is one part of the mind which remains in samadhi and the other part works. This is called sahaja samadhi. So our aim in meditation for a beginner, for a sadhak, should be not to worry about the grades of samadhi or anything, but to make sure that you are able to get into a state where there are no distractions of the mind, there are no tensions, and you are enjoying something internally. It's not dry. If this happens, then you're on your way. Is a measure of, is a milestone that, oh, okay, I'm moving forward. And don't worry about the siddhis. That is a great distraction. I meditate for 6 days and I feel very nice, and then I've opened my eyes to see if I'm levitating. No.
Thank you, Shriyam, for coming. We like to end the program in the same way that we start, which is in silence, but this time just silence in gratitude for the love that brought you here, all of the behind-the-scenes folks who made this happen. I mean, the plants in the yard who actually grew the tomatoes that you ate, people who are not even in the room who contributed to this event happening. It really does take everyone working together, whether they show up at 8 in the morning to set up the audio or video. So just 2 minutes, about 2 minutes of gratitude in silence, and then we'll close. And I don't have a timer, so we'll just take us out.
Shall we start?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Shriyam, for being here.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Nice Saturday morning.